Oh, hey, Alice. Thanks for stopping by. We got some very powerful guests in the house this evening. We got Michael and Emily from Taxiway. Thanks for being here.
Oh, hello. Thank you for having us.
Of course. We we've been we're both got busy schedules and we're both trying to make this happen for a while, and I'm glad we were able to finally do it.
Me too. Me too.
Yeah, thank you for being patient with us with our
Oh, yeah.
crazy release schedule and all that. We really have been trying to make this happen for a while, and I know it just hasn't come to fruition. But really, thank you for sticking with us and making this happen.
No problem at all. Yeah, I understand. I'm busy too, and I'm a really big fan of y'all. So
Thank
We're
you.
a big fan of you.
Yeah.
oh, thanks. Emily, you also are in a band called Miss Lonely. Have a show coming up on February 7th.
That's right. At Jolton Hardware, it's part of our if we're going to do a series, it's the first Wednesday of every month. I know at least through May, maybe longer, kind of featuring bands with either female fronted or non-binary performers to raise money for different things. Like I think this last show I think we might be doing different ones every show, but it was a blast. We just did our first one, and next one will be February 7th.
Very nice. And then there's a Taxiway show 25th of February. Where was that?
Yeah, that one's going to be at the East Room, and we're playing with Samantha Henson, one of our really good friends. She's based out of Sacramento, and it's going to be come to town for a while. And Great American Canyon Band, who I really dig their stuff. I haven't gotten to see them live though, so we're really excited for that one.
Oh yeah. And then y'all have your first debut album out as well. That's available now. I'll put a link up to it in descriptions. Yeah, definitely go check that out. If you don't know about Taxiway, it's very powerful music, but it's also very simple. It's tasteful. And yeah, I love seeing y'all perform. It's very intimate. It's very, like, Michael's a really great songwriter, and it's cool seeing stuff that's raw. I get the same feel from Dangerous Method, like Joseph Jarrett plays in Taxiway, and like his music's also just very powerful, very vulnerable. Just as a human being, just very powerful and vulnerable.
Yeah.
I really admire that about Joe a lot. The fact that he's willing to be so vulnerable in his music. I think that in a lot of ways he's more raw and vulnerable on stage than I am. I actually tend to put a wall up in both my songwriting and stage persona, but Joe is just willing to just go for it and just let that, let the emotion just pour out of him in a way that's like visceral. And I've admired him for a long time. I'm always really excited when I get to play in a band with Joe, and because he and I met when I was in Blind Tigers back at we met at the Springwater Supper Club and on September 17th, 2015, and it's my first time seeing Dangerous Method, and Blind Tigers' first show in Nashville. We didn't even have a drummer at the time. We were a two-piece, and I was just blown away by his songwriting from the get-go, like from the very first song. I mean, Rory and I sat there and were just like, holy shit, this guy's amazing, So so it's really cool that I get to be in a band with my wife and with my best friends. I mean, that's something I don't take for granted.
It is pretty cool. Yeah. And we started because when I joined the band, I replaced Kayla Singleton, who was the first drummer, who is awesome, like set very good groundwork for me, especially because I didn't know how to drum when I started drumming in the band. But and it was just me and Mike and Joe, and then we were practicing at Joe and Emily Jared's house a lot, and so we tricked Emily and Emily Jared into
That's
being
right. Emily,
in
yeah.
it was
I didn't mention
great.
that, but Emily's also in Taxiway.
Yeah. Like,
Yeah.
hey, you're here anyways, so
Don't let her hear this. Don't
Yeah.
let her know that we tricked her, you know.
it won't all along.
Wait, I joined what band now?
Nobody
I've tricked Emily into doing several book clubs.
Yeah. Hit me up when you do a Hemingway book club or something.
Oh yeah, I haven't forgotten. We're gonna do The Man by the Sea. Is that what it's called? Old Man by the Sea.
The Old Man in the Sea.
Yeah, that's the one. I've got it on my list. That's one you recommended. What my plan is with that is, well, because it's a short story, I want to do that and curate a couple more short stories. But yeah, we'll do that soon for sure.
It's like it's a novelette, so it's a bit longer than a short story per se, but it doesn't have any chapters. And I actually have read it. The last time I read it, I was on the beach and I read it in like one day. I mean, you can read it in probably 2 or 3 hours. There's a really great audiobook of Charlton Heston reading The Old Man of the Sea, and he has the perfect Hemingway voice. I mean, you know, he has that Santiago voice, that like old man kind of you know, grit to him, you know. And so
it's somehow soothing yet also anxiety inducing. It's like
yeah
the best.
I was thinking this was like 2 or 3 pages. I didn't realize that. So okay, cool.
Yeah.
We might be able to, we'll just do that as a standalone then. That's
awesome. It's still a very quick and digestible book. Like it's kind of minimalist in its narrative, you know, because like I said, there's no chapters. I read somewhere that there's only, in the entire text, there's only 1 exclamation point.
Wow.
I mean, you know, it's just very, that's his writing style, you know. I mean, it's journalistic, you know, because he was a journalist with the Kansas City Star. He would report facts. He would just, you know, say like he was an old man who worked in a skiff and blah blah blah. And you know, so it's you know, it's very like neutral and stoic in its storytelling. It tells you what's happening and doesn't tell you how to feel about it. And
spoil the ending.
I'm not spoiling anything. I'm not spoiling the ending for sure, but it is still a very quick and digestible book, more so than like For Whom the Bell Tolls, which is a much denser, longer book. I love For Whom the Bell Tolls.
I love that song, dude.
Metallica. Yeah. Well, it's also a great novel, but it's a much longer read, and it does drag a little bit in the middle section. The novel, not the song.
Song's perfect.
But it's a denser read, sure, but still very, very much worth your time.
Very cool. Yeah, I'll make sure that's the first Hemingway we do here in the upcoming months. I actually really love that style. I'm not a big fan of when authors paint a picture for you. I think less is more a lot of the time.
Yes.
That's very much like my style of writing as well, is I try not to hang on things for too long. Like I'm reading this book right now, Perfume, Story of a Murderer, and
I've heard of that. I've never read it. Yeah.
It's really good. That's what we're doing for the book club right now. But it's really good, but it's also like it's set in France, and it's a German author, and I feel like, and it's about scent. Like it's about this guy who's very like supernaturally like his olfactory senses are like on next level, like beyond human ability, basically.
Yeah, he's like the rat from Ratatouille.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of describing scent. There's a lot of like going into detail on it, and it's not bad. It's just not. That's a pet peeve I have. I like the more cut and dry, this is how it is kind of authors.
Flowery language.
I've spite read a book once that was just too drawn out, but it was because there was an introduction to it. It was Nightwood by Dejuna Barnes, and I was like, oh, it's a classic, I'll read it. And then the introduction, I forget who wrote it, but they just said something like, most people don't get this book and it's brilliant, blah, blah, blah. And it was kind of condescending and it pissed me off a bit. And then I started it and I hated it, but I couldn't stop because I had to prove the intro person wrong. Like, how can you do this?
Neil Gaiman.
No, Neil Gaiman would never write that.
I mean,
Dude,
no,
the
it was
author negged you
somebody
in
who's- it was somebody whose opinion you take seriously, and like
I don't know. I think I blocked it from my mind, but it was not Neil Gaiman.
whoever it was. So, wrong apparently. I've
Yes.
never read it, but
But yeah, I've never read a book out of spite before that, but
I feel like even if it was good, like you're just not gonna like it. If you're
yeah,
trying to-
I'm going into it thinking you're
Yeah.
so pretentious, man.
yeah, I feel like that's I feel like that almost happens a lot with like overhyping and stuff.
yeah,
Like
yeah.
like something gets overhyped, and then there's the knee-jerk reaction to dislike it because it's so popular. Like a lot of I can speak much more to music about that than I can literature, but like there's a lot of people that hate Turnstile, I've noticed, and
They should get over it.
and I just think they're one of the best bands that I've seen very recently. But man, like traditional hardcore fans, like they do not like Turnstile at all. And it's like, no, I think they made it because they're good, actually. I think they're actually a good band. I don't think there's a conspiracy behind it. I think they actually were just good and worked hard. And
Yeah,
right.
there's a few like that. Like Sleep Token gets a lot of hate just for being poppy, and it's like it is more accessible for sure. But
Yeah.
like I don't really think there's anything wrong with that. And I don't think yeah. And it also isn't necessarily them, like selling out just because
Right.
it happens to be accessible,
Yeah, that's my thing. Like if what you're doing is it's from you and it's true and that it happens to be accessible or something, but that's what I don't know if it's true to you, then I'm like, cool, Godspeed.
No, I mean, yeah, I mean, selling out is often a phrase that's used ubiquitously with like becoming famous or becoming successful or something. But I mean, that's not selling out. I'll tell you what selling out is. Selling out is when Good Charlotte did an ad for PETA, and then like 2 years later did an Australian KFC commercial.
Yeah.
That's hilarious.
That was selling out.
I was that's hilarious. I was so into Good Charlotte. That was like with like Yellow Card and My Chemical Romance.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
That was
Man,
my shit.
that was the
Yeah.
jam. I remember like Yellow Card and AFI and Newfound Glory being on MTV All Things Rock.
Oh, yeah.
And I used to have to record it onto VHS, showing my age here a little bit, but record it on VHS because it would play at like 1 or 2 in the morning, and then I'd come home from 8th grade, and just like, oh, I wonder what videos they showed last night, and I'd play it, and it would be, Headstrong, like, it would be like, yeah, like the butt rock mixed with AFI Silver and Cold, like, oh, that's a great music video right there, or
Yeah. I remember when I think I was like, I don't know, middle school maybe, and one of my best friends was, and I love My Chemical Romance, but she like really loved them. I was obsessed with the White Stripes, still am if I'm being honest with myself. I'm obsessed. But she was she got I guess it was TiVo back then. She had TiVo before anybody else I knew did, and could record the videos on there. So I'd go over to her house and I'd make her watch a White Stripes video with me, and then she'd have her turn and play My Chemical Romance. It was like a back and forth.
Nice. And
good things.
who opened for My Chemical Romance?
Turnstile.
Yeah. So
We didn't plan that.
yeah.
Full circle.
Yeah.
I still big, like My Chemical Romance is huge for me even now. It's I don't know, like I'll listen. There are like 2 of their albums that I'll still put on in the car. What have y'all been listening to in like the last week?
I've been listening. I feel like I've been listening to a lot of local bands lately, which like I'm not saying that just to sound like, oh, I support the scene, but it's just kind of I think with the album coming out recently, I've just been in the zone. Like I've been listening. I've really loved the Justin the Cosmics album that came out this past year. That's been on repeat quite a bit. For the Taxiway release show, we played with LB Bystedt and Shlomo Franklin, and ever since then I've just been there on repeat for me a bit.
They're great. They're really good.
I'm like, I'm trying to relive the good memory, I guess. But
yeah, their recordings that they have streaming are excellent.
Yeah.
And Justin's record is fantastic too.
Oh yeah. And and then lots of Sparks. I'm always listening to Sparks. They have so many albums in their discography that there's always something that I either haven't heard or I've forgotten about. So.
They have such a deep discography.
Yeah,
they really do. Yeah, I listen to local too. Yeah. I listen to a lot of Krungman, like when I'm trying to zone in and focus and all that. It's like someone on some comment referred to them as lava lamp music. And I'm like,
I like that.
Like that's pretty cool.
Yeah,
that's cool. That's pretty cool. But it's just so cool that they're like they've always been a 3-piece, and they are a little bit rockabilly and a little bit hip hop and a little bit funk, and like it's like lo-fi beats, but it's guitar, bass, and drums. It's really cool. It's great for just sort of like when you need to focus and when you need to make the brain shut up for a little while, and all of that.
I know what you mean. That's its own genre of music. Like a lot of my favorite stuff I can't listen to while I'm doing other shit. Like it's like you can't passively listen. You have to actively listen with certain stuff. It like grabs your attention. Where there's good music that you can like get other shit done and like still have a soundtrack to what you're doing is really useful.
I feel like my brain is kind of weird because I think that is probably the best way to do things, but sometimes I find when I'm stressed and trying to tune in, like I just listen to the most out there kind of dissonant stuff, like anything by Mika Levy, like Mika Chu and the Shapes, Good, Bad, Happy, Sad, or what else? Just once I was working and found myself listening to the soundtrack from the movie Pearl, which is I was having a really bad day. Just things that I'm like, this doesn't seem conducive to work, but it's getting me.
Well, and I was diagnosed as ADD when I was 15, and interestingly, I was diagnosed as ADD, not ADHD. So they left the hyperactive part out, which is accurate. I wasn't getting into fights or anything. I was just daydreaming. But I found that listening to like repetitive ambient music or listening to trip hop and stuff would help me focus on my work, especially in college, like especially when I was at MTSU. And so I would listen to like Biosphere or Global Communication or Air or something like that. A lot of Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross soundtracks, I would listen to those. And after that, I just became so enthralled by that sound, by those atmospherics, even though I could not play synthesizer to save my life, that I guess I was just too lazy to try to learn to play synthesizer or try to learn to play keyboards better. So I started trying to recreate those sounds with guitar, and so a lot of what you hear on Taxiway recordings, a lot of folks have commented on how much they love the synth. And I'm like, there's no synth. Any Taxiway recording, it is all guitar. It's me tweaking the knobs or the volume pedal in such a way to emulate the sound of like a synthesizer, an analog synthesizer. But it is all guitar. And I'm not saying there will never be synthesizer on a Taxiway recording, but as what's been recorded now, Absence and New and This Is Permanent, like it's all guitar.
If enough people think it's synthesizer, does it become synthesizer? No.
Synthesizer of Theseus.
Yeah.
Yeah, you do a lot of cool ambient stuff with guitar. It is interesting. I could definitely see someone come to that conclusion, like especially if they hadn't seen you play live a bunch, like, oh, this is a synth.
Yeah. Thank you. I pride myself on that a bit, but also like, I was in songwriting courses at MTSU, and I always loved, you know, Bruce Springsteen and Bob Seger and Johnny Cash and whatnot. I liked songs. I liked lyrics and songs and melodies and emotions and stuff. And so I never just wanted to make ambient music. I wanted to write songs too. So, Taxiway is kind of an attempt at finding the place where the Venn diagram overlaps between those two sounds.
If I may ask, who are some of your favorite songwriters?
I would say, well, I just mentioned Bruce Springsteen, who I love dearly. I would mention Tom Waits. I love Tom Waits as a
Me
songwriter.
too. I love Tom
Yeah,
Waits.
yeah, I do. Yeah. And he's got some soul crushing ballads, and he's got some carnival barker music too, as well. Like,
Very
I've always
original.
wanted to I've always wanted to do some cover of Christmas Card from a Hooker in Minneapolis.
We should.
Where
We've
like I
talked
don't
about it
even
long
I don't
enough.
even play. I just stand there with a whiskey in my hand and just sort of like recite it.
Oh,
Maybe
yeah.
maybe Joe can play the piano or guitar or something like that.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. I think for me, I grew up listening to Harry Chapin. I just love the stories that he created. He was brilliant, gone much too soon.
Mhm.
Nico Case, she's one of my favorite songwriters and vocalists, just brilliant. Nick Cave, I love the duality of Nick
Oh, yeah.
Cave. He can like, I don't know, some of his,
He's awesome.
like, yeah, if you look at like Murder Ballads, that's the same guy that did and No More Shall We Part, or The Boatman's Call. It's
Well,
just, it's
good,
it's just insane. It's like a different artist, and I think I like artists like that where you just see so many different sides of their mind come out through their music and their work.
Yeah.
I think like it's really cool that y'all released an album, because the album is a dying art, and I think this speaks to what you were saying about like artists being versatile. It's like
Yeah,
this album, like if you go back, it's like historically, it's like this album sounds a certain way, and this album has a certain sound to it, but like the artist isn't as easy to like pin down. Whereas
yeah,
now, because everything is, and I'm not faulting anyone for doing it, like releasing singles, like that's how people are, getting traction and like making money.
Yeah.
Um, like getting their name out there, getting on playlists and stuff. But it is sad though, because I love the album, like listening to it from start to finish. And I think when you don't do the album thing, when you just release singles that eventually are on albums, right? It's
Yeah.
it's like this band has a sound that they have. Like
yeah.
they kind of put themselves in that box, I guess.
I do, yeah, and I do love that. And I think that was definitely a major thought behind this album too, even with the title of it,
Yeah. It was very much an attempt at like expressing an idea that should exist in album form. So these songs are not picked out at random, and the approach to the recording was to tie these songs together sonically and energetically, and there's definitely a deliberate thought behind that. Like it's not a concept album per se, but I wanted I was thinking of Nashville and big cities in general, and gentrification, and the inevitability of change in the world, and walking back through areas of downtown that I used to hang out at all the time, and a lot of my favorite places after the pandemic were gone, and a lot of places had been turned into, it's such a cliche, right? Been turned into hotels or condos and whatnot, and I just had this sort of like, melancholy feeling about it, that some of my favorite places are still there, but maybe they won't be. Maybe I'll come back next year and they'll be gone too, you know, and there's really not anything that I can do to prevent that. But this album though, like this album, this is permanent. Like this is permanent. Like this is unchanging. This will not be gentrified. This will not be taken away from me, or taken away from us as musicians. Like this just is what it is, and it represents this period of my life. And next album might sound totally different, and this album sounds pretty different from, you know, everything that I've recorded up until this point too. But like this, it's like a photograph, you know, it's a snapshot of an era of time, but this is it. This is permanent. This is live. You know, this will not be, you know, torn down by a crane and replaced with a new sleek gentrified album, you know. And that was the thought process behind it. And you know, I agree with what you say about the album as well, about it being an art form.
Albums feel like time capsules to me. You can really just, because listening, I don't know, I mean, like it sounds so simple, but it's just cool to think when you listen to, I don't know, something recorded in 1924, you know, those people aren't alive anymore. They've probably been long gone, but you're just hearing what they were doing in a certain moment of time and it's recorded there. I just love that.
Yeah.
Sure. Understanding like the context of an album just brings it up so much too, you know?
Yeah,
It
yeah.
does. Yeah, it really does. And the intentionality behind it, and
Mhm.
especially if there is intentionality behind it.
Yeah.
And you know, and yeah, I mean, there's probably things that we could have done in this studio that would have made the album more commercially viable or something. But you know, I just wanted to make a statement. You know, I wanted the album to be its own thing. And
It's funny too, because I feel like it definitely like captured a moment in time where, like, when we started recording it, I hadn't really worked in a studio before. I'd been drumming less than a full year at that point, and then Joe had just switched from bass to baritone guitar. Emily Jarrett had just joined the band playing bass, so it kind of caught us in moments where we were figuring out, I guess, the dynamics of being in a band together. So it is cool just to have that on record.
Yeah, it's decorating time, like you said.
Yeah.
it is, yeah.
Yeah, it's I don't know what else there is to do in life.
Yeah. That's half the fun of it, isn't it? Just
Yeah.
It's like
Sure.
the only thing to do is like inhale as much good art as you can, and like food, you know, and like connection. Like those are all good things.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
like if you're not making art, what are you doing?
Yeah, that's Strummer's Law. I don't know if you ever heard that concept before, but Strummer's Law, named after Joe Strummer. And you know, no input, no output is, you know, that's what he said.
Wow.
So, you know, you have to immerse yourself with things that inspire you, you know. And even if you're a musician, it doesn't have to be music. It can be film, it can be, you know, books, it can be poetry, it can be, you know, paintings or photography, whatever. But
the theater.
yeah, you just have to, like, you have to immerse yourself with it in order to be creatively inspired. And if you don't, then you find yourself stuck in a rut, you know, and you know, then you have no output. You know, you're not putting anything out there into the world, you know, for other people to be inspired by.
So on that, what are some big inspirations for you both that are not musical?
Yeah. Ooh, that's a good question.
That is a good question. Yeah. So I love photography. I am not a photographer. I don't have any photography skill or anything like that. But I love photography and I love film. You know, I know that there's this romanticized idea about film, and especially like 35mm film and stuff like that. But my God, it just looks amazing. It just does. Like, you know, there's just something about it. And so I love the idea of uh like, you know, capturing a mood that's really hard to pin down. The best way I can think of to describe it is golden hour, you know. And other words would be like melancholy and whatnot. Like, you know, like I love trying to make the musical guitar-based drums equivalent of the way that the movie Lost in Translation makes you feel, you know,
Yeah.
or Garden State, you know, like movies like that, you know, and you know, I don't tend to write things that are particularly dark or menacing or violent or anything like that
Anymore.
um anymore. Yeah,
You've written some good murder songs.
yeah. That's
Yeah,
that's
sorry, I
that's
don't want to derail you, but I want to go back to something you said earlier because we were talking about Joseph Jarrett and how vulnerable he is.
Oh
Yeah.
man.
You were saying that you're not as vulnerable, but I've seen Taxiway a bunch of times, and like you convey emotion very powerfully.
well, thank you. Well,
Like
thank you. Yeah.
the song about, man, I can't remember. And forgive me, I can't remember the track name of the song, but talking about the girl that's no good for you, and everyone's telling you that.
Oh, Sweet Rosalita, I bet.
Yes,
Right?
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That song fucking hits. Like it's
Oh.
powerful. Like oh my god, at Bowery Vault when y'all played, that was incredible. Incredible.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you. And in the end, he's getting catfished the whole time, you know, like,
Yeah.
you
But I
know,
mean, like that is I mean, that's coming from somewhere, right? That's like that comes from a real place, and you just know when you hear that, when you
yeah.
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 So I say
Yeah.
all that to say I don't think you give yourself enough credit. You're an amazing songwriter, and
Thank
you are, you know, maybe we could all be more vulnerable, but you convey emotion very powerfully.
Well, thank you. Yeah. Well, I do appreciate you saying that and mentioning that. Yeah. Yeah. On a note about that song, Sweet Rosalita, I was trying to write the song Blue Spanish Sky by Chris Isaac. And if you don't know that song, you should definitely look it up. It's an amazing, beautiful song. And it's like that too. It's very dark and sultry and minor key and all that.
I like the way you said that you were trying to write that song.
I was trying to capture that energy. I was trying to capture the sentiment. I want to try to rip off the song. It's not a rip off. The songs don't sound that similar, but
Sure, I know what you know.
Yeah, you know,
yeah.
It's trying to like capture that mood and that vibe, and you know, and trying to like reckon with the feeling of how did I not see this all along? You know, how did I not see what was happening to me? You know, I got roped into this, and oh my God, I'm such an idiot, you know. And so yeah, I was trying to capture that vibe, but I mean, it shouldn't. It's probably not coming as a surprise to anybody that I like, you know, golden hour photography, and I like backlighting and kind of deserty imagery and things that are kind of vaguely Middle Easterny and
how do you take your coffee?
Black.
Yeah.
What does Agent Cooper say in Twin? Black is midnight on a moonless night.
Yeah.
Damn, cup of coffee.
I was wondering if I could trouble you for a cup of strong black coffee. The David Lynch thing. Yes, I drink my coffee very black.
Yes.
We know.
Yeah. Oh, we noticed. We noticed. Black coffee drinkers are the vegans of coffee drinkers. You know, oh, don't worry. They'll tell you.
Make sure, in case you didn't hear.
Yeah, totally. I've been monopolizing this question though. Like, what inspires you that's not music?
Oh man, I get very interested in studying people. I know that maybe came out sounding creepy, but like not in a creepy way, but
Studying.
That's a really like that's a really nice way of saying you're a stalker. It's like,
yeah, I know it's
very
true. I'm
interested
a
in
friendly
studying
one. Oh yeah, there we go. Not quite, but like I mean, for example, I in a past life I was a tour guide at Belmont Mansion and at the Ryman. I've always loved like historic tours and things like that, partly because I get inspired just learning about other people's lives and being able to kind of snoop on other people's mindsets. I think that's why I like reading so much. I could just sit and read for hours and hours. There's nothing to me more just soul cleansing than just sitting in silence and reading for hours on end. Mystery novels, mystery books, history stuff, Sue Grafton books. And theater too. I think anytime I go see, especially, I just really enjoy, I guess, I mean, I like large scale things, but I really enjoy local things, local theater, local artists, local authors. Like, I just think I don't know, I think it's cool seeing people as they're doing something where they, they probably have a day job that takes up a ton of their time, but they're still putting this so much effort into making something so cool when, it'd probably be easier just to say, nope, whatever, I don't have time. But I don't know, I just find that really inspiring because that applies to me too, I guess. Yeah.
Seeing artists do
comes out.
things, yeah, seeing artists do things for the right reasons, I think is really cool. Like, there's nothing wrong with making money, but if that's your goal, then that's like, I don't know, that's gonna come through in your art. I think what I really love is when someone who's just doing it because like they have to, because that's who they are, also gets successful doing that. Like, that's the best.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. So I don't know. There's a good feeling to it, and even just, I know we said other than music, but just going to a concert or some type of live show, just the feeling that you get, like hearing live music, it's just, I don't know, there's something spiritual about it. It's just like, it's just there's nothing quite like it. And it's just amazing that that exists in the world and we get to experience it and make it and be a part of it.
Yeah. What you said about it being spiritual, like, I was raised really religiously and I was also homeschooled. So like,
oh wow.
Yeah. So when I turned 18 and moved out, like I didn't know anybody.
Mhm.
And I just started going to live music and like it is spiritual. It is like that became church. Like Easter was the first live show I saw. Just like
wow.
some really awesome local bands. And like I immediately just fell into this scene and I'm like, this is it. Like this is where it's at. And it saved my life. Live music saved my life. Like I don't think all artists understand how important, like what you guys, I don't know if no one's ever told you, what you guys do is extremely important. It saves lives. It's
thank you.
Yeah. Like,
and it is funny too, because I mean, I know myself, there's certain artists who I've gotten to know, like authors even, or musicians, who I meet them and they're so important to me. When I meet them, they're just like, oh, they're having a rough time or I don't know. It's like, it doesn't sink in. Like, no, you might not be like touring stadiums, but you're so important to me and it helped me through so much. And it's just, it's amazing when it hits me like, oh, they don't realize how much of an impact they have.
yeah.
I think it's so important not to lose sight of that, like not to lose the mission, and especially as like so much of music gets caught up in the production of like content, like the idea that you have to be a musician and you also have to be a content creator or an influencer or something, it's just like it's so easy to lose the mission, it's so easy to just think like, you can go to the East Room or the Springwater or some other, or a house show or something, and on any given night it's a total crapshoot what kind of show you're going to see. You might see somebody, it might be their second ever show, and maybe they're not very good, maybe they're not very good yet, maybe they're working through the kinks of their live show or something. Or you might see somebody who's older and they've been playing these types of venues for 20 or 30 years and they're amazing, I mean, but I love that. And I feel like when I go to, a venue that's much bigger than that, like a Live Nation venue or something like that, like I almost feel like I know what I'm going to see to some extent. I know
Yeah.
they're still good. I mean, it still could be a very, very good show, but you know, it just feels like I don't know, like the truly interesting musicians are the ones that are playing in these dive bars and these house shows and stuff. You know, the ones that are kind of reside in the nooks and crannies of society. You know, the ones that you know, the ones that are a little too offbeat to be doing TikTok dances. I love stuff like that. I've seen some of the amazing musicians that way, and I've seen some weird ass shows too that way.
Yeah.
And I love that too.
We are super blessed to be in a place that has all this talent. Like,
Yes.
Yeah.
so many amazing, talented people. It's
Yeah, it really is. It's easy to forget sometimes and take it for granted. I always try to remember, like, this is not normal to drive 5 minutes any direction and be at it's cool local to you.
Anytime I leave Nashville, like I went and visited my sister in New York, and I was like, I want to be home. Like I'm home.
Yeah.
It is just it's a different vibe. And it's funny how different cities have just their different vibes with the live music scenes. It's
Yeah. Where are y'all from?
We're from Cleveland, Tennessee, outside of
Oh.
Chattanooga. It's like 2.5.
Oh
3 hours.
shit. Okay. Yeah, I grew up in Fayetteville.
Yes, you weren't very far.
Yeah, you weren't
Yeah,
far.
that's cool.
Yeah. We met at Cleveland High School,
Yeah.
Tennessee.
Aw.
We were friends. We were a married couple in a play, and you can't take it with you. We were the Kirbys. Our characters hated each other. Yeah, yeah, we were friends, but anytime my character had to faint in one scene, so I would like devious needs, just like
faint in my general direction. Yeah.
Just accidentally.
Yeah. That was about 16 years ago.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
That time flies. That's
yeah. But yeah, I went to school in Nashville. He went to school in Murfreesboro. So we kind of, and that was where we were both wanting to go anyways. So I think it was meant to be.
Yeah. Did you move closer to Nashville for music? Was that intentional?
Basically. Yeah, basically. I mean, I was, when I graduated MTSU, I sort of hopped around odd jobs for a little while until I landed a semi-permanent gig at what was called Measurement Incorporated. I don't even know if they're still around anymore, but I did that, and that gave me just enough of a stable enough income to start planning to move to Nashville. And then I went there and worked for a company called Service Source, which is not around anymore. But that enabled me to move to Nashville in 2013. So I moved there because I had a job. I had a job right in the middle of downtown. But I got the job so that I could move to Nashville. You know, I didn't move to Nashville because of the job per se. Like my goal all along was to move to Nashville. And even when I was at Murfreesboro, I was spending, when I was at MTSU in Murfreesboro, I was spending most weekends in Nashville. And so I've been hobnobbing around here since 2009. We both have since 2009. And like I said, like we said, prior to that, we're from Tennessee. So we're not from too far away, but
I was in the entertainment industry program for undergrad at Belmont, and then worked in live events and event management for about 3.5 years. And then I realized I like contracts. It sounds boring, but I like making sure people don't have to go to court later. I like knowing the boring things to help make the artistic stuff happen. I went to law school, and so now and then became a lawyer and was going to shows all the time, and finally realized my true other calling.
So you said that you didn't play drums before Taxiway? Like,
yeah, it's crazy.
That is insane. You're playing drums in 2 bands.
I know. How does that happen? I guess
you're not really truly a drummer until you join a second band.
That's true.
It's like a rite of passage.
Yeah, and the first, I guess at the beginning of February it'll be 2 years, so it's just a little bit under 2 years. And I'd always wanted to play. I mean, like I said, I'm obsessed with the White Stripes. Meg White just changed my life growing up. And I'd taken some lessons when I was younger. Like I played a little piano, played a little guitar, and I loved it. Nothing ever quite stuck though. Like I always found myself liking the part of making the art happen, but not like on the event business side of it, but just hadn't quite found my thing in making music. And I mean, I always loved writing, wrote some songs and short stories, things like that. But I'd talked about drumming for a while, and then when Taxiway needed a drummer, it's like, well, I'll do it. And I did. And months later we played a show.
That's awesome.
And yeah, it was funny too. At Bowery Vault, I think that Vero and Emily, the owners of the Bowery Vault, they're such cool people. I love them. We'd played like 1 or 2 shows there, and they Mel from Miss Lonely, she and Amy were looking for a drummer, and they recommended that.
Wow.
So it was really cool. And just now I guess we started playing together a year ago this month, and it's wild. They're some of my favorite people in the world now.
That was the first time I'd seen y'all was at Berkey House the other
Yeah,
night.
isn't that a cool place too? I'd never been there.
It's so cool.
I loved
Yeah.
it.
Definitely.
We were just talking about that the other day. Berkey House is fucking awesome.
It's
Great
magical.
people, dude.
They were so kind. Yeah,
It's
that was
such a cool
so
spot.
fun.
That's a cool spot.
Yeah, I went in just not knowing what to expect. I was like, what is this magical land I've walked into?
Yeah, it is a pocket dimension when you enter like the Fey realm.
Right, it really feels like it. Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure.
I get the same vibe like Muddy Roots or certain like stay there festivals where you're just
I still need to go to
camping.
Muddy Roots. I want to so badly.
Muddy Roots, it was insane but amazing. It could have been less hot.
That always would be nice.
That'd be nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
But yeah, like Berkey House is like it's its own plane of existence, and like
It is,
time works differently there. I don't know. It's weird. There's magic going on.
And Mel, who was the vocalist and guitarist and songwriter in Miss Lonely. She's one of those magical people. Like we were asking her, how did you find out about Berkey House? She said, I don't really remember. I just got us the show. She just kind of, and she writes.
Finds you.
Yeah, I think so. But she's one of those, she'll write these amazing lyrics and you'll stop and listen and just kind of say, how do you do that? And Amy's just she's brilliant on violin. Just you can give her a track and she'll come up with something amazing to play on it. She's played with Taxiway on violin on a few songs, and we've never actually rehearsed together. She just steps in there and
give her the key.
Yeah,
tell her to key the songs in. She does it.
I'm sometimes I think, how do I between that and like Joe and Emily and Taxiway and you, but I can't let your head get too big because yeah. I'm like, how do I get
Because then balance would be difficult.
Yeah, exactly.
That I got to interview her now because that's a question I take. That's a question I take really seriously. Is how did you come up with that? Actually, is on my list of things I was going to ask you guys. Like, where do you think art comes from, and what is process like for writing?
Art comes from, man. That's a great question.
It's something I've been thinking about a lot, and I don't have a good answer for it. I mean, Mel and I have been talking about it a lot. Like Mel describes Miss Lonely as conduits, where she says it's like the ideas just
That's what I think is happening. That's where I'm at with it.
Yeah, and for me with like for coming up with drum parts, and I mean some of the and a lot of it, like rather than doing something completely complex, sometimes that's what's needed, but other times I want to do what serves the music. I'm not gonna do a crazy drum solo in Taxiway because it doesn't serve what we're doing. Miss Lonely, I'm gonna be a bit crazier, but it's funny. That's kind of how I work with coming up with drum parts. It's kind of just instinctual. I can't really even say, there's not really a process to it. It's just what's in my gut, and then I do it, and I don't really know where it comes from.
Yes. So songwriting for me is very like, it's very hard to explain how I piece songs together. I feel like when I attempt to explain how I piece songs together, I sound like I'm insane. But but
That's not a bad thing.
my songs practically never begin with a blank page, and then I just write, and I go in a straight line, and at the end of it there's a song. I patch together ideas that I come up with at different times. So I have on my notes app on my phone, I just have this long list of hooks. It's called a hook list. And they're phrases that just inspire something in me. Like it could be a song title, potentially, could be a piece of a lyric. It could just be like a visual idea, but it's something that inspires me in some way. And it's called my hook list. And I just keep those for years and years and years, and probably at least a dozen, maybe even up to 20 of them have become real songs. I mean, I've had this list since probably 2015. And, A Deeper Shade of Blue was once just like a phrase that I just scribed into my notes. 10 Miles High was one that I scribed into my notes. And by the way, that's actually an obscure Nine Inch Nails B-side called 10 Miles High.
Okay.
But they sound absolutely nothing alike.
I think that's what happened.
But no, I just have this hook list, and I approach lyric writing and melodic rhyming, or sorry, melody writing and chord progressions as three different disciplines. Like there's a reason why Elton John has Bernie Taupin write his lyrics, and has for his entire career, because Elton John's an amazing melodic writer, but doesn't feel comfortable writing lyrics, and Bernie Taupin way, And so to try to do all three is kind of madness in a way, is you have to be kind of an egomaniac to try to think you can write all three at once. But so I don't try to just sit down with an acoustic guitar and say, and now I will write a song. I might come up with a chorus, and I just sit with the chorus for a while, like, ooh, that's good, cool. And I just sit with it, and I just let the chorus sit there until I figure out what I want the verses to say leading up to the chorus. And that might take months to get that done, or the other way around, I might have a really good verse idea, but I have no chorus, and I'll just let it be. I'll just rough demo it, and I'll just let it be until the day that I figure out a good chorus. It might come to me while I'm driving. It might come to me while I'm trying to write something else, but my songs are they're pieced together from, a lyric from this old song that's like 3 years old, and a melodic phrase from this other new song that's 2 weeks old. And I just sort of Frankenstein those together until I get a cohesive song that I like. And I would say that's probably 70 or 80% of my songs are written that way. And on a rare occasion, if I'm feeling really inspired, I can sit down and bang out a song, for the most part from scratch, in 15 or 20 minutes. But that's very rare. Like normally my songs take months before they're finalized, before I feel good enough to actually commit them to a proper demo and show them to my bandmates.
Gotcha.
So it's more of like crafting a song than it is like writing a song per se.
You're kind of getting little pieces from all sorts of life experiences, and ideas, I guess.
In the past, what I've done is I've basically forced myself to finish a song, and then I hate it because what I was trying to do was just finish the song. I was trying to just get it done. Yeah. And that doesn't serve the song very well, because then I end up with a lyrical phrase that doesn't make sense, or I end up abandoning my internal rhyme consistency because I just wanted the song to be done, and I can't do that. I've done that in the past, and I've hated it.
The song will tell you when it's done.
It's like,
I think that's very wise to not force that. Like, I've got a list of notes too for like pieces of poems that I'm like, that's not finished. I don't know what to do with that. And then I've merged, kind of like what you're saying a little bit, like merged two different things I was working on I'm like, oh, actually that works.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
There's a thing, talking about like where it comes from. Something that's really weird to me is like, I'll write something and then years later be like, oh, I didn't realize I did that.
Yeah.
Like I subconsciously did something with this that I didn't realize I had done at the time.
Ah,
And
Yeah,
that gives me a lot of questions about what we're doing exactly.
yeah, I
yeah.
have songs like that where I have no recollection of writing them.
Mhm.
Like, I hope it was me that wrote them. Maybe it was Chat GPT. I don't know, but like, you know, maybe it wasn't Chat GPT. But you know, I'm pretty confident that was me that wrote the song. But like, you know, I have no recollection of how I sat down and wrote these lyrics. You know,
Yeah.
when did I write this verse? Because you know, sometimes I'll have like a full verse. Sometimes I'll have two verses, but no chorus.
Yeah.
It drives me nuts. You know.
That was even like, I think a few months ago, I was looking through some boxes I found from 10 years ago, or maybe even more. And I found these fragments of poems that I'd written, and I hadn't really remembered writing them, but I read them and realized it brought me back to how I was feeling at that moment. I knew what it was about, but I just didn't remember writing it. Yeah.
I like the sort of idea of thinking of time capsules and stuff. That's sort of a time capsule in and of itself.
Yeah.
It's like if we've been talking about this a lot. If you've seen the movie Past Lives,
Oh,
you know, it's
so
such a
good.
beautiful film. It's a it's either Korean or I think it's Korean, right?
Yeah.
Okay, it's
Yeah.
Korean. But if you know, like the central idea behind it basically is the person you were is not the person you are. And so, you know, it doesn't mean that the person you were wasn't real and that the feelings and emotions you experienced at the time weren't authentic and sincere, because they were. But it's just that you have let go of that person. And in a way, when you find a song or a poem or something that you wrote, you know, 10 or 12 years ago, it's like getting a letter from your past self.
Yeah.
You know, it's like getting a letter from somebody from the past, you know, and it's just fascinating to think of it, you know,
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah. Yeah, life is weird and short, and it's yeah, it's good to have creative and also like honest, but not in like a lying kind of way, like honest in the way of like genuine. It's
Yeah.
Yeah,
like,
sincerity. Yeah.
there's
Mhm.
not room for anything else in your life, you know, except
Yeah.
genuine people that want to share good vibes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's so much more fulfilling that way. It's so much more
Yeah.
fun that way.
Yeah, there's something nice about art that's created because the person that created had to create it. I think we touched on this earlier in the
I
conversation. You
think
know, they have to do it.
Yeah.
I
You
think
know,
that is the arc of a true artist. It's not
Yeah.
optional. It's
yeah, I think so too.
it's compulsive. It's mandatory. It's it's an exorcism is what it is. You're
Yeah.
getting it out of you.
Yeah.
And like art is not easy. It's not fun either all the time. It can be really hard.
Yeah.
But then like that has a value to it too, because like someone can hear your song and go, shit, like I know what that feels like.
Yeah.
I'm not
Yeah.
alone anymore.
Yeah, no, yeah, it is a challenge. It is a challenge. And I slave over lyrics for a long period of time because they really do matter to me. You know, lyrics really are important to me. And there's plenty of bands out there that I love and adore where lyrics are not quite the central focus of the song, you know. A lot of shoegaze bands are like that, obviously. You know, the lyric is an instrument
Yeah.
among all the other instruments. And you know, that's, you know, the lyrics are more evocative or impressionistic. You know, they're not necessarily like narrative per se. And I have so much respect for musicians that do that and do that well. But I definitely consider lyrics to be a central focus in Taxiway songs. And you know, and I'm obsessed with internal rhyming too. So I'll come up with an internal rhyme meter, and then you know, I just have to make it work for the whole song. You know, I mean, A Deeper Shade of Blue does that, and Valencia, the opening track, has an internal rhyme meter in the verses. And when I wrote the first lyric of that verse that became Valencia, I was like, shit, now I got to make this work. Now I got to make this work like three more times, you know, because I got I got to write a verse and a half more for this to be a complete song. But it's such a great internal rhyme scheme. I'm like, it's a challenge. It is. When you said it's it can be a struggle. It can be hard. It is. It really is. But it's worth doing. It is worth putting yourself through it and putting in the work. I mean, sometimes it is just work. Like sometimes it is just wrestling the ideas out of the ether and bringing them into fruition. But for me, if I stumble upon that rhyme scheme that I like, I'm like,
Well
no
said.
turning back now.
Wrestling him from the ether. Well said.
Yeah, thank you.
So what kind of music was in the house when you were growing up?
Well, my
Or in the
mom,
car,
yeah. So my mom loved 90s country music, so a lot of Garth Brooks, a lot of Trisha Yearwood and Brooks and Dunn, and like Martina McBride and things like that. And those are very lyrical based songs, and and very storytelling based songs. Like Neon Moon, for example, is a beautiful song.
That's a great song. Yeah.
It is a great song.
A good karaoke song.
Definitely.
It is a great karaoke song. Yeah, that's one I can do karaoke. I gotta
Oh,
remember that.
yeah.
Yeah.
We should go do karaoke sometime. That'd be fun.
Yes, I love
that'd be fun.
karaoke.
That'd be awesome.
I
Yeah,
get into it.
we totally get into it.
Yeah.
Yeah, we used to go to Lonnie's all the time,
Oh,
when you
yeah.
could actually go to Lonnie's.
Wait, Printer's Alley, is that the one?
Yeah,
Oh my
yeah.
God, I haven't been there in forever. Is it not there anymore?
Well, back in the
It's-
day, I think it was down the street. Like it was still
Yeah,
nearby.
Yeah, because it's still there, but they've moved it like just outside
Okay.
of Printers. But like in 2009, 2010, we'd go all the time. We could park for $5 right next to it, and it was right in Printers Alley. And they would let us
Yeah.
in, and they would let you in if you like 18 and up. I think we could still go sing.
Sometimes you'd get lucky, you could park for free.
Yeah.
Find street parking, which is unheard of now.
Those
but
were the
like,
days.
but we would be in college, and we'd go do karaoke. I think they used to live stream it too on their website.
I hope
shit.
that anymore.
Oh, it
Nobody
probably
does.
does.
Dangerous.
But no, yeah. So my mom always had 90s country playing. My dad was always really into like he was into 50s music. He was into oldies, so he loved Buddy Holly, and but he would also listen to like Chuck Berry and stuff like that, but and singer-songwriter stuff too. So he loved James Taylor and Eric Clapton and the Eagles and stuff like that. So I had a lot of I mean, in a way it's kind of traditional boomer music, but it was it was good music to inspire my songwriting chops.
I don't think that's a bad foundation at all.
No, it really isn't, and later, you go to college and you meet that one guy who, introduces you to like Cocteau Twins or something, or Clan of Zymox, or weird 80s industrial music, and like oh cool, you like that, here, check out, you like Nine Inch Nails, here, check out Skinny Puppy or something like that. So I get into weird shit when I was in college, but I definitely like my I definitely like my Brooks and Dunn to this very day.
Yeah. I think
your parents' taste in music is cooler than most people our age.
that is true. Yeah. I was thinking about when I talked about how I'm kind of all over the place musically. When I think about it, I'm like, well, it kind of makes sense. I mean, I grew up, there was always David Bowie, the Beatles, Paul McCartney live. There was OG Leonard Skinner, Collective Soul. There was just traditional Irish music, Broadway musicals, Rachmaninoff, just like all over the place. There wasn't any just one thing. And I think I've carried that over a bit. I used to go over to my grandparents' house, and they'd always be playing Glenn Miller, which I loved. But then though, when I got to high school, I would make my grandparents mix CDs, and they would actually listen to them. It was very sweet.
Yes.
Traditional Irish music is awesome.
Right, it's so cool. It gets you that feeling of that kind of spiritual feeling. It's very
that was our first international trip.
Our
first international trip was in Dublin, and we got engaged in Glasgow on that same trip too.
Oh
So,
shit.
Yeah.
I've really wanted to go to Ireland for a while. Like every time I see it, I'm like, oh my God, this is so beautiful.
You will love it when you
It's
go.
amazing.
You're gonna love
It's worth the hype. It
Yeah.
absolutely lives up to the hype. It's an amazing place.
Yeah, for sure.
What have you been listening to like last week?
Ooh, last week. I mean, so I'm on Spotify, so like I'll kind of pick and get random little singles. A little bit of Billy Preston. That's been what I've been vibing with recently.
Ooh.
I'm always down for some like bluesy kind of stuff. So that's my
Yeah.
little
I need
fun.
to acclimate myself.
Yes, he did.
Yeah.
What did your parents listen to?
Let's see. Growing up, so my dad was big on the country. I think he basically saw "Oh Brother, Where Art Thou" and got super stoked on it.
Yeah, that soundtrack.
That's my
though.
karaoke song.
Soundtrack, though. That's a killer soundtrack.
Oh yeah, big time.
Yeah.
But then my mom, she was always weird and eclectic. Like she really liked what was it? Like fucking Rhythms Del Mundo and shit like that. Like so we'd just be hearing different sounds from around the world all the time, which was pretty cool.
Oh, that is cool. Oh, that's
yeah.
Love that.
That would be really cool.
So
It's not a bad decision at all.
No, go ahead.
So switching gears, hard
Yeah.
segue.
Yeah.
I used to ask people that have any ghost stories.
I do.
Okay. That's I was gonna say is a lot of the time it's not encompassing enough because first of all, you're assuming that ghosts exist when you say when you ask a question like that, right?
Yeah.
So what I really mean when I ask that is, have you ever had an experience that you can't really rectify with logic?
So many.
Please.
I don't think so.
I'll go. Okay.
Nothing springs to mind for me.
I'll go first. You can think.
I'll ponder on it.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I think I don't have as much of a sense of it as my mom does. She's like, she can walk into any place and just know if something weird happened there, if there's some kind of energy. When I was a kid, we used to go and tour historic places, and she would get so mad at my dad because she would whisper to him, "This place is definitely haunted," and he would have to go up to the tour guide and go, "Excuse me, is this place haunted? Because my wife has this sense." My mom would be going, "No, shut up." Yeah. But yeah, one of my early I was in Vermont. I forget where this covered bridge is. They have all this cool covered bridges. And there was one that they called Emily's Bridge. The rumor behind it is that I think in the 1800s, this woman was going to go meet up with her boyfriend and go elope, but he didn't show up. And so she jumped off the bridge, or I think something like that, and died there and was haunting the bridge ever since. And people had reported all this activity. So I think I was 12 or 13. I was on one of those trips with my parents where my dad probably said, "Excuse me, is this place haunted?" And we were taking pictures at the bridge and went to take another one. And my mom said, "Well, let's get one of just Emily, since it's Emily's bridge." I mean, we took the photo. We've got it somewhere. I wish I had it on my phone. I printed out a picture somewhere at my parents' house, but there was this white blur around me after we took the photo. Yeah, very kind of gave me chills. I got out of there fast, but it's kind of cool. I mean, we did invite Emily to take a picture with Emily.
If you ever find it, I'd love to see that.
Yeah, I'll find it. I'll send it to you because I know they've got it somewhere. I need a digital copy of it anyways. And then another trip with them as well. I grew up just obsessed with, did you all ever see like the Travel Channel haunted places shows? Not even the ghost hunter shows. It was almost the more historic ones and everything.
Yeah.
I was obsessed with those. And so there was it's Heceta Head Lighthouse that we went to, and they've got it where you can stay in it's a bed and breakfast now in the old lighthouse keeper's corner, or lighthouse keeper's quarters. And I remember when I was maybe 10, I watched a Travel Channel episode on this lighthouse and about how a ghost of a lighthouse keeper's wife was haunting the place after one of her children died there, and a lot of the activity was centered in the attic. And so I forgot the name of the lighthouse. We went on this trip and we stayed at the lighthouse keeper's quarters. I found out afterwards it was the lighthouse that gave me nightmares. And apparently at our room, we opened a hatch in the closet and it led up to the haunted attic. So I was pretty horrified. But apparently the energy there, the spirits there, or the energy or whatever didn't like it when people were doing work on the building. And so anytime they did some type of maintenance work, something would happen. The day that we got there, they were painting the outside of it. That night at 2 a.m., the fire alarm went off for no reason. They could never figure out what happened. So
Damn.
yeah. And then let's see, one of my first jobs, I was a tour guide at Belmont Mansion, and I never saw anything, but I've never felt such a strong sense of being watched.
Yeah.
It was always at the end of a shift. I would have to go upstairs and turn off the main lights and turn on some of the smaller lights. It was in those upstairs bedrooms. Whenever I was doing that, it's hard to explain, but just somebody was watching me like a hawk. I could feel eyes on me, and it didn't feel like a negative, whatever it was. It felt more like somebody or something really cared about the house and they were guarding it. It was more like they were a protective feeling. So I would always kind of just mutter, I'm here to keep things nice. I'm not here to break anything. And then it would be fine once I said that out loud. But I don't know. I've never had a feeling like that, quite like that before, but something was watching me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Whenever I feel like something coming on, it's like it is actually a sixth sense. You can't actually explain it with any of the five senses. But
Yeah.
it's like this like profound quiet, and it's usually for me it'll start like in the corner of a room or something. And it's like it is so still and quiet and cold and just absent that it has a presence to it.
That's how this felt too. That's how I always felt there. It's another one like that. Oh, sorry. Oh,
I was gonna say, I think that the closest that I've ever come to experiencing something along those lines is when we were in Key West and we saw Robert the Doll.
oh yeah.
And I don't know if anyone's familiar with Robert the Doll, but you just have to look up the history behind it. And for anybody that's listening to this, that's family, I apologize in advance, but fuck that.
It's okay, no one watches this.
Don't say that, Robert. We respect you. We respect you. See, we made a donation because I have a donation bin there for Robert, and we were very respectful. I didn't take any photos, but Mike did ask permission before taking photos. Then later, I found money on the ground, and I kept finding money throughout the day. So I feel like Robert maybe liked us.
Whoa!
So I don't want to mess with Robert.
Just Google Robert the Doll, and you're like, oh, okay, yeah, and of all the little knickknacks that are there, that are there where he's in his display case, one of them that's like right next to him is a hand signed letter from George W. Bush.
The fuck?
What?
Was that giving you the vibes?
Oh, no, that was not. That was definitely not giving me vibes.
That's the most haunted artifact there is.
Right. No. Yeah. I mean, so, but that was just the most random thing. But we visited where he's
it's
displayed.
It's his home.
And it's in Key West, Florida, and we were the only ones in the room. We were the only ones. We felt like we were the only ones there, but we were the only living beings there. Let's put it that way. But and it also was like 100 degrees. I mean, it was so hot and so muggy, and so the air was just like thick. But we just going through this. It's not even really a house. It's just like a fortress, like an old fortress. And he's in this encasing, and I was just like, oh, okay, yeah, no, 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 I don't like this. Just look him up sometime. Just Google Robert the Doll. And,
I'm definitely going to. That's awesome.
You'll see what I mean. You'll see what I mean.
It's also on the Travel Channel haunted shows I watched as a child, and so I felt like I was meeting a celebrity. It was
yeah,
it was a big deal.
Huh.
Yeah.
Did you have another story, Emily?
Oh yeah, there was one time a few years back, I took a trip to Savannah, Georgia. That place has some vibes. The whole city kind of does. I loved it there, but I met up with a group of friends, and we stayed and we got this rented this Airbnb. It was in a old house, I would guess from the late 1800s, and it was divided up into apartments. And our apartment, and there was 2 stories, and during the day it was gorgeous. It was a gorgeous place. It had plenty of room, but you walked in and there was a what used to be the old front door where you could get out, and then there was a back door you came in. There was a living room, kitchen, bathroom, bedrooms are upstairs, and then there was this old entryway kind of hallway by the old front door. At night, I don't know what it was, but I remember I was just so freaked out. I had this feeling something bad had happened in that entryway, and it was just some kind of, I don't know if it was bad energy or what, but something was there or had been there. I didn't say anything to my friends about it at the time. I didn't want to scare them. I did not walk down to the bathroom at night. I was not leaving my bed. But then after the trip, somehow it came up organically. We'd all felt creeped out about that particular spot in the place, and nobody had wanted to say it to freak out the others. It was just very weird how we were all feeling it.
Yeah.
But it was just something bad was there, or something bad had happened there. I don't know.
As we say.
Yeah. I didn't really particularly care to get to know whatever it was.
I never had anything weird happen to me as a kid, but like after I like left the religious cult that I was in and was out on my own, I was like obnoxiously atheist, like annoyingly atheist.
Yeah.
Like confrontationally atheist. And
the trajectory though, where it's like
yeah.
reverse and then
Yeah.
I understand now that these things are like a pendulum. If you swing one way,
yeah.
Yeah.
swing hard the other way.
Yeah.
I the girl I was dating at the time bought a Ouija board, and I was like, yeah, let's do it. Shits and giggles. I don't believe in this shit. And like I've told this story before on the show, so I won't get into it too much. But I never experienced anything strange until I went looking for it, like tried it and stuff. And that really opened up my mind. I'm like, oh, and now I have like a healthy respect for scripture for the first time in my life.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, oh, this isn't nonsense. The problem is that people don't understand it.
Right. And there's so much that like like we're all just human. There's so much that we can't understand. And I feel like we maybe couldn't even comprehend at this stage, you know.
It's so insane. Especially Hebrew, like the Old Testament is so incredibly complex and beautiful, and so much of it is lost. Like fundamentalism, I know a lot about religious history, especially Christianity, and like fundamentalism has existed for like 500 years. Ancient people knew these things were metaphor, and I feel like it actually takes away from the message to interpret it literally.
I do too. There's so much that, and I think that people, because I grew up and still consider myself a Christian, United Methodist, not in the schism, the one where I'm the Methodist that's that
the pro LGBT.
Yeah, exactly. I'm in that one. But that's been sad to see though, that whole split with the Methodists. But
what is Methodist doctrine? Like not getting into like political stuff, but like just what they believe about scripture. Do they believe in hell, for example?
It's tricky. That's how I grew up. I mean, I think yes, to a degree, but it's not like hellfire and brimstone. And to be honest,
it's separation from God.
Separation from God. And I don't know if I necessarily think, it's one where like I'm a Christian, but I don't necessarily I don't think that other religious beliefs are wrong either. To me, it's all people.
It's all the same thing. They're all saying the same thing. It's actually.
When I talk to my friends in other religions and things, I love talking to people about the similarities in different religions and just, and to me, it's like ultimately, like to me, I know what feels right for me to believe, and some of the values I get from that are important to me. But I feel like a lot depends on like how you grew up, what culture you grew up in. It just feels wrong for me to say, oh, because you grew up where this was the dominant way of thinking, you're absolutely wrong and I'm absolutely right. I think there's I don't know. It's just such a
I
big
do
world.
think there's like a hierarchy to beliefs.
Mhm.
It's not every idea is equal, right?
Right, right.
Like murder is not as good as non-murder, for example.
Yeah.
So I do discriminate with beliefs and
Yeah.
think like that's a bad idea. Let's not fucking do that.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, like you're absolutely right, Emily. And every religion is saying the same thing, but this is the Tower of Babel, where they're building a tower to heaven, and God divides all their languages. So now it's like they're all speaking, even though we're both speaking English, we're speaking different languages. That we're saying the same thing, but we don't understand each other because we have the context of this is Buddhism, this is Islam, this is Christianity, but it's like
Yeah.
you're all saying the same thing.
And
They all, yeah, and you find that all major religions have some variation of the golden rule,
Mhm.
you know, have some variation of like do unto others as you would have them do unto you. And it's whether it's Islam or whether it's, you know, Judaism or whether it's, you know, Hinduism, you know, they all have some kind of idea of like cyclical energy that's been,
Mm.
you know, repackaged or repurposed or misinterpreted or maybe deliberately mistranslated by,
That one.
Yeah,
You know,
that's happened so much.
yeah, by some like, you know, Bronze Age authoritarian government or something, you know.
Yeah.
So yeah, but
And it's yeah, it's funny too because I mean, I don't know. To me, I've almost the older I've gotten to, the more content I am with just accepting the fact I don't know everything. No person does, and I think that's okay. Like
Yeah.
at the end of the day, you know, I can subscribe to the beliefs that I have found to be right for me and try to live in the way, you know, live in the best way to try to make the world a better place while I'm here. And then ultimately, I don't know, I think that a lot of it comes down to intention. I'm trying to do right by people in the world. And at the end of the day, if I'm wrong on some stuff, I've done my best, you know. And I think everybody, I don't know, everybody does that in their own way. And it's kind of informed by their culture and their background. I mean, I don't know, there's just so many different types of people out there. It just doesn't make sense to me to say that, well, I know everything. I don't know
I think
shit.
that's the first step to enlightenment is
Yeah.
the first step to understanding is that I don't understand and I'm a child and I'll continue to learn until the day I die is the
Yeah.
first step to growth and enlightenment.
Yeah. And I think to me, like to me, my like God or the higher power, whatever you want to call it, to me, I think I don't know. I just really feel like the intention is what matters. And if you're doing what, I don't know, if you think that you're doing good and trying to serve people in the best way, to me, that's what's important.
Yeah. Yeah. Growing up in a religious cult really gives me insight that like everything is a religious cult.
Yeah, there's
Like
so many.
politics.
yeah.
Politics are religious cults.
Yeah.
I worship this party and everything that
Yeah.
this doctrine is my religion, and that's true of all of it. Of
It's scary when it's kind of scary how very like, and people get so intrinsically tied to things where it's so hard to say, oh, well, this person is wrong, but it's tied to an intrinsic part of themselves almost, and it's like it physically hurts them to say.
yeah, I have a lot to say about that. I think people in general are like we see this in like the like animal kingdom, like primates exhibit this behavior too. We're all very servile, like we serve a greater thing. And like with chimps, it's like here's the alpha chimp, right? And it's like he's in charge, and we need this structure. There's something about us that needs this structure. So it's like religion is actually like it in concept is like a really beautiful thing because it's like, hey, wait a minute. Instead of worship being a monarch, what if we worship an ideal, a conceptualized ideal, and we serve that instead of serving each other, instead of having this hierarchy among men? And it's like, but this can easily be hijacked too. you
Oh,
can take that religion and do something dark with it. But yeah, I think what you're talking about how they get attacked whenever you talk about it's because they identify as a Christian, as a Democrat, as a Muslim, as a Republican. And it's like, no, you're a human being. You're not any of those things.
And I think that there's so many, when you really boil down to it, there's so many, like, I don't know, every category has so many subcategories. We're all individuals with so many different life experiences leading us to what we're doing. It's, yeah, there's, I don't know, to say that there's one exact right way to go about looking at things. I mean, other than certain things like let's not stab each other. That's not good. But
I'm anti-stabbing.
yeah.
Yeah.
It just
Yeah.
seems so short-sighted to me.
I think because I think that everyone has to serve something, it's kind of like whether you serve a God or not, you are going to serve a God, whether
Mhm.
it's money, it'll be something. So it's all about picking the right one, I think.
Yeah.
For me, it's
Yeah.
yeah.
I've got the phone stuck in my head.
Like when I tell people that I worship Lucifer or Prometheus, what I'm trying to say is that I worship this exchange of knowledge, especially if it's hidden knowledge. It's things that aren't supposed to be for people. It's like giving that to people is I have my own like holy trinity where it's like you have the teacher, the student, and the knowledge itself, and
Yeah.
you can't have all three have to be there in order for this process. And I do worship that concept of I think not I'm an absolutist about this also. I think people deserve to know things, and it is immoral, unethical to withhold knowledge from anyone for any reason.
Yeah.
Now, you can take like a governmental, like parental approach to this and say, okay, well, people can't know how to do this because they'll hurt themselves with it or they'll hurt others with it. The problem with that is you're also a flawed human. So it's like you're not in that position to tell someone. So it's like, even if that's true, even if they are going to go kill themselves or kill other people with it, you're not really in a position, like that's just how it is. You're not in a position to gatekeep that.
That is a thing that stresses me out about humans, even the people in, the highest decision making positions. We're all human. Nobody really fully knows what they're doing. Like I became a lawyer because I wanted to be the person who could help people and know the absolutes, but I'm realizing more and more there's always it depends in situations, and nobody, I don't know, all adults aren't really fully adults in their minds. I think everybody's still trying to figure it out, no matter how hard they pretend otherwise.
Yeah. The reason I'm so adamant about this is I'm also a humanist. I think people are good, ultimately. I have a lot of faith in humanity. I think the situations we're in create toxic people, toxic personalities, but they're not innately like that. I think
Yeah, I would agree with that. I would agree.
it's all environmental. So I think if you can educate people and like show them compassion, that they will make ultimate, I mean, 9 times out of 10, 8 times out of 10, maybe
good
6 times out of 10, they're going to do the right thing. And then everyone who does a bad thing, it's either out of desperation or it's not because they're bad.
Yeah, there's always more to it than, oh, this person is just bad. There's always more backstory to it. There's so much nuance there, I think.
Yeah, I think a lot of this is exacerbated. When I say this, I mean like division, polarization, whatever, is exacerbated by the way that social media is set up in a way, because all like every major social media company is a for-profit corporation, and a for-profit corporation makes money by withholding your attention and selling you advertisements. That's what makes it a a marketable platform if it can do that. And there is nothing that holds onto your attention like fear and anger,
Mhm.
much more so than invoking happiness or even like sadness.
Mhm.
There's nothing that holds your attention better than fear. And like the way that Facebook and Twitter or X or whatever the hell it's called now, or any of these social media platforms work,
Yeah.
it's not fundamentally any different than the way that a cable news outlet works, which is keep you enraged, keep you angry, keep you feeling attacked and isolated alone, and then in between that sell you a boner pill, or sell you like a timeshare or a gold bar or some shit, I mean. And yeah, so I think something that's really gotten really worse, I've noticed, as we get further and further into the social media age, is that in general, I think people have too many opinions. And I think you should have fewer opinions, which is either a quote from Marcus Aurelius or Seneca. It's one of the Stoics. You should have fewer opinions. You should keep an open mind. But I think also people have been rewarded for giving into their worst impulses.
Yeah.
And we're really bad nowadays at resisting our worst impulses. And I think this is bad across the board, but it's definitely it is by far and away my biggest gripe with like MAGA and with Trumpism and things like that in particular, specifically. It's this idea that it's okay to be xenophobic or transphobic or racist, and that no, it's actually cool, it's actually edgy, it's actually like fun, you're sticking it like you're an outsider, you're like the new South Park or something, sticking it to your parents or whatever. No, it's not, it isn't. And maybe you get like a rush from it or an exhilaration from it, but it's not okay, and it's dangerous, and you cannot give into it, man. I mean, it's like it's sort of like the Joker in The Dark Knight. The Joker represents in that movie extremism, and Batman and Harvey Dent are two sides of the same coin that are trying to uphold, order and liberalism and law and trying to maintain people's faith in the system. And the more and more chaotic things get, the more people like turn to the Joker and say like, well, hey, I'm with him, and it's like, as he says towards the end of the movie, the Joker cannot win, and it's cool to quote the Joker. Sometimes we watch the Joker and we go, God, I love that guy. He's fucking insane. Like, he's just does what he wants, but you can't give into it, man. You cannot give into it. It's dangerous, and it's law and order and democracy. It's frustrating, and it's at times it's just infuriating, and you have to have conversations with people that you can never even imagine yourself agreeing with, but it's so much better than anarchy, and it's so much better than fascism.
Michael, you're touching on something that's like really personal to me. I am an extremist on a lot of things, and it is hard. It is hard to fight that, because you, again, like you said, you watch Joker in either Joker or Dark Knight, and you're like, this guy gets it. He's pointing out the problem. But okay, like literally last month for the book club, we did the Unabomber manifesto.
Oh, man.
And I'm reading this and I'm like, this dude is
this makes sense. Like
it fucking makes sense. He's talking about a lot of serious, but then you look at who he was. And it's like, I might as well throw this out now.
Yeah.
Like,
No, yeah. And there's like there's so many things like that, like Scum Manifesto, Valerie Solanas who shot Andy Warhol. There's some times where I'm like,
Sure.
oh, men are out to get us, but I'm like, oh no, she was horrible. Nope,
Yeah.
I don't,
Yeah.
I don't want you to die.
No, thank you. Well, thank you.
And
Yeah, I
it's
don't
like,
want to die.
nope, we don't. Nope.
It's
like-
it is like that. It really and like and that's the thing too about like, you know, certain things that the Unabomber said and certain things that the Joker points out, you know, and
There's concept and execution, right?
certain,
Like,
Yeah.
certain things that Donald Trump has said, you know, like he's not wrong.
there has to be a grain of truth in these things in order for people to follow it.
You know, it's like, you know, when he said that shit about like, I know about like whatever, like the wealthy, like the establishment in Washington is not looking out for you. They're looking out for their own pockets. They're looking out for their shareholders. Like, that's not wrong. Like, he's not wrong for saying that, you know, but you know, you can't like, yeah, you just it's so frustrating to try to make, you know, democracy and law and order and things work, especially in chaotic times, especially in polarizing times. But you know, it doesn't mean that the underlying feeling of disenfranchisement is invalid
Mhm.
or wrong, or that if you feel like the established order not only doesn't care about you, scoffs at you,
Yeah.
and is exploiting you and exploiting your labor and exploiting your resentment and your anger for their own benefit. That is all true. That is absolutely all, you know.
It is,
totally.
yeah, it is amazing though how in execution of realizing those ideas, I think some people take it to a degree where they give even less of a shit about other people, and it's
Yeah.
you know, it's,
You're absolutely right. I've not even that long ago, like been at some really low lows of like seriously considering doing things that would get me put in jail or killed, and like taking steps, like seriously considering it. And quite honestly, the only thing that stopped me from that is understanding that it wouldn't get anything accomplished.
oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
It's like people close to me telling me like, hey, you're just gonna throw your life away.
Uh-huh.
So this is quite like, as much as it's frustrating to me, this is the extent of what I can do, is have conversations with people.
Yeah, and it's so frustrating because it takes so much time. You're not gonna get on the same page with everybody, but yeah, I've had a lot of reckoning with that the past few years, I think, too, and just realizing at a certain point, like there's a lot that I can't control. All I can do is my best here, but there's a lot that we just can't control. But I think taking little steps at a time, enough people doing it, it makes a difference, but it's just the progress is so slow, it can get kind of hard to see sometimes that it can be effective.
Mhm.
I think like you have to, I think a lot of people from my generation are not arguing in good faith, like not listening to the other argument, not, it's probably not just my generation, but just people are doing this.
It does seem to be, and I think it's social media definitely amplifies it as people get in their silos of
Like-
different ways of thinking rather than listening to
like if we wanted to focus on it, we could find areas of disagreement, maybe like some really serious ones that like we disagree very strongly about, but like, and you know, like, and we could, I feel like we could still, even if we did go down that route and had that conversation, we could still be friends. We could still, and even if we don't come to a conclusion, it's like, so I think people argue in bad faith. When I have a conversation with someone, my goal is not to get them to come to my side of the argument. My goal is to be understood, for you to understand what I'm saying, and for me to understand what you are saying. And if you don't come to an agreement, at least we understand what each other is saying and where we're coming from. And that should be the only goal of any conversation. It shouldn't be to win it.
I feel like people yell and resort to extremism and things like that when they feel like they aren't being heard. and when they feel
Disenfranchised, yeah.
understood. And in an environment where your opinion has to be 180 characters, in a tweet, or or it has to be distilled to like a 15-second TikTok, or else people will swipe away from it. So much of the nuance just gets lost, and when there's so many voices competing for the same attention span, it's the outrage and the over the topness that gets amplified and that gets noticed. And what are you doing, boy?
Our cat is wandering.
He can't find a comfortable position. I know. But yeah, I mean, people, I think in general, people, they resort to extreme tribalism or extremism, things like that, because they feel like they've exhausted all of their energy trying to be civil and trying to be heard, and it's just falling on deaf ears, and nothing changes. Their situation doesn't change, their mental state doesn't change, and nothing changes, nothing works, nothing seems to work, and to try to sell people on the idea of hang in there, keep trying it's a tough sell. It's a really tough sell for sure.
Yeah.
It is. And but as I kind of alluded to, as Batman says at the end, the Joker cannot win, and a lot of things, there's been a lot of corpses that have been created because of people who turn to fanatical strongmen throughout history, thinking that they'll change their situation, whether they change it through fascism or whether they change it through Marxism or whatever, like this person will change my situation. And it's, we have a storied history of proving that not only doesn't work, but that it ends very, very badly.
Yeah, it is a tough sell. Like, speaking personally, I have zero faith in the system. I would have gotten into law or politics if I thought, I mean, there are some very important parts to law, but
Thank you.
but like law,
I know what you mean. I know what you mean, though.
Yeah.
I don't think serious change can be made this way, just to be honest. Like, I think there are a lot of really good intentioned people that aren't able to make the changes they want because the system is so corrupt.
I think that it's not easy, and it just happens at completely a snail's pace. I think it's possible, but it's almost as if sometimes it feels as if we take a step forward, 2 steps back. It's very it definitely creeps along. I still believe it's possible. I mean, I think it gets down to, I agree. I think that ultimately the majority of people, there's goodness in there. I believe in that win overall in the end, but I think the path to get there is just
I don't see a lot of good options, to be honest. Like, that's what makes Joker so appealing, because it's like, we know lobbying exists. Like, this isn't a conspiracy theory. Government is corrupt. We all know that. Like, every American knows that.
Oh yeah. It's one of the few things we can all agree on, right?
Yeah, is that it's fucking shit show.
Government's corrupt. Yeah, for sure. There are 2 people that are yelling at each other in a debate, like, "Hey, excuse me, is the government corrupt?" And they're like, "Oh yeah, oh absolutely, oh for sure." Yeah.
Let's go get a drink and talk about how corrupt the government is. Yeah.
Or hot dog sandwiches,
I think
the important issues.
Yeah.
I do. Yeah, I think, I don't know. I think if you look back in history and even at now, I don't think that there's ever been a time where everything was completely on the up and up or the way it should be. I think there's always going to be the people with the bad intentions holding things back. I think that doesn't mean that that's necessarily going to always win, but I think it's a constant push and pull. And I think it always has been, not that I was there, unless I'm
It's a
I
push and
think
pull.
that I think there's scenarios in which violent revolution is inevitable, and it's
Yeah.
only optional. Yeah,
That's
I saw that.
probably-
I think there are situations in which that's inevitable, but I also think that we have a real tendency to romanticize violent actions of the past.
Oh yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
the French Revolution took all of, a year before the Jacobins were beheading each other,
Yeah.
beheading each other.
Mhm.
And then, and Napoleon wound up being, emperor anyway.
Yeah.
You
When
know,
it gets to the point where they're guillotining the nuns, it's like,
Yeah.
what does this have to do with
You know,
anything?
like there's, we
Yeah.
tend to really like romanticize the image of like liberty leading the people and stuff like
Yeah.
all that stuff.
And then, but then when you look at the start of it, they had reason
Oh, they
to
were
revolt,
they were
like they
hoarding grain,
absolutely,
you know?
yeah.
They were
Yeah,
literally
Yeah.
hoarding
But then
grain.
the outcome, it's like, who was this ultimately serving? It's
But that's sort of, and just I'm sticking with the French Revolution example because it's where like all modern politics, like we get the phrase left wing and right wing from the post French Revolution France, like from the way that the revolutionaries were seated on the left and the monarchists were seated on the right, so like but the circumstances leading up to the French Revolution, I mean, they were literally starving. Literally starving. I mean, you couldn't go to a Publix or a Whole Foods or something and buy fresh produce or something. I mean, the grain was being hoarded by the monarchy. And that's the situation in which you have no choice but to storm the Bastille and take all of the guns and and roll some heads. That's the situation. And
yeah.
we're I'm extremely frustrated with this stupid election year that we're about to get into again.
Yeah, it's
And-
gonna be fun. Hey, the memes are gonna be
No.
great.
I know.
The memes are going to be amazing. I can't wait for the memes.
But at what cost?
My friend says,
horrible.
my friend says often that he's like, this is the silliest time to be alive. And I'm like, well, that makes me feel better about it.
This is dumb.
It's a silly little time.
It's a
So,
silly little time. Yeah,
But
yeah, go
at
ahead.
least I can go to the grocery store and I can still buy my avocados in February in Tennessee.
yeah, we can make our avocado
Yeah.
toast.
Yeah, that's a little concerning. That it's a little weird that I can buy avocados in Tennessee in February. That cannot be sustainable. But regardless, there's not a, well, I shouldn't say there's no food shortage. There's no food shortage for me personally. So
Yeah, that's a whole nother.
there's food shortages for a lot of other people, but
Yeah.
all that matters is how I personally and
This is the best time for quality of life in human history. And I think that can be a very that can be a trap of its own. We get complacent because things are so nice.
yeah, complacency.
And when you think about the work that did go into getting certain things we take for granted now, I mean, nobody likes the 40-hour work week, but that was a big thing to get that down from what it was. When you think about all the things like that we just kind of take for granted.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
But, no, this was really fought for.
We have it better than anyone ever in any time. And there are still problems, but there's a lot to be grateful for. Like,
I do look back sometimes on childhood illnesses I had and think, wow, what age would I have died at? And
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is I gotta be careful because this could very quickly become like a eugenics thing. And I don't mean it for it to, and I don't mean for it to at all. But like,
All right.
my eyesight sucks. Like if I was born like 1,000 years ago, like I would have just died. Like,
It's true.
That sucks too.
Yeah. I'm not wearing contacts, so I would be out there. Well, no, I'd be dead from strep though. So whatever.
Yeah.
I guess we'd all be losers here.
Right. Yeah.
yeah.
We'd all be the losers here.
Yeah.
I have horrible eyesight too, by the way. I work on
Yeah, we're not doing a lot of hunting and gathering. That's not happening.
No,
Not quite, not
not
quite.
quite.
At least not out competing the other chimps.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I did get in a fight with an ape, one of the apes of Gibraltar once, but that's a whole nother story.
What?
Oh yeah.
Got in a fight with a monkey?
Oh yeah. Well, it was a one-sided fight.
Yeah, I bet.
I was standing there and there was one of the apes of Gibraltar was like sitting on some kind of stone formation and just jumped on my shoulder. I don't think I've ever screamed so loud. And it jumped off me. There were paw prints all over me, and it just gave me the most hurt look. Like, man, I thought we were cool. What the hell?
Bros.
Yeah,
We were
it just wanted to hang out
wanted
with
to
me.
sell you a timeshare.
Yeah, yeah. They've been trying to contact me about my car's warranty for years.
Yes, yes.
That's how they get you.
Yeah, every time.
Oh, well.
Well, this has been fun, but we're going on like 2 hours, so.
Are you serious? It doesn't even feel
Yeah.
like that long.
I know. We could do this for hours. We're gonna have to do this again sometime.
Yeah, we need to.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, y'all are welcome at my table anytime.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for having this conversation. I think, not to like toot my own horn or brag, but like I think these kind of conversations are important. I don't think they're rare. I don't think they happen often enough.
Yeah.
And I really appreciate you guys. I appreciate what you do. And I look forward to seeing what you do in the future and catching you at your next shows. Speaking of which, 2/7, which is probably the day this is coming out, but 2/7, you can catch Miss Lonely where?
Jolton Hardware. Really cool. I love it over there too. I hadn't been till a few months ago. It's a really cool spot. They just kind of redid the stage and it sounds really great.
Is that in Nashville?
That's out in just past Nashville, out in Jolton. Like really, it's like
Cool.
25 minutes, I think, from center of town.
Right on. I'll try to make it up to that. And then I'll definitely be at y'all's show on the 25th.
Yeah.
Easter,
February 25th. We're excited for that one.
That'll be cool. Yeah. Well, we really appreciate your support and appreciate the opportunity to have the dialogue and the conversation. And I mean, we really do. It's such a stock thing to say, but I mean, we rely on the support from people who come to our shows like you do and invite us to their platform, to do interviews or free flowing conversations. I mean, we rely on that to get the word out on who Taxiway is. And so, would love to do it again. Love to have another dialogue or conversation like this. And, if, I would just say, just as a closing thought too, if you ever find yourself having those types of thoughts, like you alluded to earlier, those like, those dark thoughts, shall we say, you can hit me up anytime and I will listen to you and please do that before resorting to anything that you would regret for sure. But hit me up anytime.
I actually really appreciate you saying that. I think about this stuff all the time. I can't turn it off, and it really helps having people I can talk to. So so you might regret giving me that invitation. I will take you up on it. I've got your number now. You can't take it back.
Take backsies. No take backsies. Yeah, right.
Alice, check out Taxiway. Link below. Check out Miss Lonely too. They're awesome. And we'll see you next week.
Bye, Alice.
Bye, Alice.